Ooh, that is kind of intimidating. And I like to talk. But I'm going to listen.
Well, your time is up.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, I have, I don't know if it's really a question or a concern.
Doesn't matter.
Before I was introduced to your teaching, or Abraham, I was going through life, judgmental. I mean, I think I really trained myself to be very critical. And
it's all right, because you were evaluating environment and coming to your own conclusions about what you want. Nothing wrong with that. Except that in the process, you came to conclusions that the larger part of you didn't agree with, and then you didn't know what to do with that. So you blamed what you were focused upon for the bad feeling rather than your own misalignment.
Correct.
Which is what judgmentalness is. What being judgmental is focusing on something in a way that the source within you doesn't, feeling the discord, and then blaming your object of attention for the way you feel.
Correct.
That's what judgment is.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
It's hard, isn't it? We are an anomaly, we know.
So, oh, goodness gracious. Okay. So here's the thing, that when I became aware of certain things that I was not aware of before, on the freeway, I panic. And I feel like I can't swallow. I feel like that sometimes I it sounds so gay, but I feel like I'm leaving my body, or sometimes I'm in a bubble and I'm driving and I'm totally in a vortex that feels really wonderful to me. And then all of a sudden, and I'm not really I pay attention to everything, but there's people, and I'm aware of that. But then sometimes that makes me really nervous. It makes me panic. And then, so I'm not sure what that's about, but I know that somehow it's got to be part of my process. And I think I'm learning to let go of a lot of things. So I don't know what I'm holding on to if I'm letting go of so much that's not serving my higher self anymore. But
well, the fact that you're talking about it in traffic, does it happen under other conditions? Because you see, here's something that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Here you are, sitting in a room. There are nearly 400 people surrounding you. All of them are listening. It's not completely void of judgment, because everybody has their own opinion about the conversation. Some things we talk about you wish we wouldn't. Sometimes we don't talk about things you wish we would. In other words, there's a little bit of everything going on in here. And yet you're not panicking here in this environment, because there is mostly alignment with source energy that is happening here. So you feel comfortable in this environment of alignment. When you are out in what many call the real world, or even in traffic, and if your thought is upon some uncontrollable circumstance, then as you are witnessing all of those moving parts, we would say that what you have on occasion, and maybe even quite frequently, is an out of the vortex moment. But the most important thing that we can say to you, and we want to say it to those of you who we were visiting with before, because it was evident there also, is that you could not have an uncomfortable out of the vortex moment if you hadn't had many in the vortex moments. If you didn't have that relationship, if you didn't know what alignment felt like, you wouldn't feel uncomfortable in the misalignment. Right. You hear? And that's the most important thing that we want to give to you. Yes. Esther has discovered that she can, and all of you know this, you could stand in a moment. Let's say that Esther's driving the monster bus in traffic. Here's an interesting story. As they didn't bring the monster bus over from San Antonio, they just came in their car. And as Esther came off the freeway and into this hotel, she said to Jerry about 5 times, "I'm so glad we're not in the bus," because it would have been uncomfortable navigating the bus around in this traffic. And Jerry said, each time she said it, well, Scotty would have let us know and we would not have brought the bus here. So he didn't continue the thought, but we will continue it here. What's the point of using this moment as a moment to be uncomfortable when this moment is perfectly comfortable?
Right.
And so what happens sometimes is, and the tendency is to believe that there's something going on in this traffic around me that I am having a negative response to. When the majority of cases, it's not that there's trouble in the traffic, it's that there's trouble in your vibration that the traffic is just exacerbating.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you find yourself, do you have experiences, many of you have spent enough time in the vortex, do you have experiences where sometimes you're just breathless as you worry about unimportant things, sort of tossing and turning over things that you can't control? And we say, with our most profound and powerful, loving voice, stop it. Stop it. In other words, you can stop it. You can control the way you feel by choosing to focus otherwise. You just can't do it all at once.
Right.
So we would not try to analyze what's going on in traffic that has me all out of sorts. You were out of sorts before you got into the traffic. Get in the vortex and then get in traffic. Get in the vortex and then go to the traffic. Get in the vortex and then go to the traffic. Don't just blunder into the traffic and then freak out and then try to get into the vortex. You're not going to make it. Get into the vortex and then get into the traffic, you see.
I think I see that analogy because I think I see that now, because that's how I feel like I've gone through my life at times, is either playing catch up or whatever.
Good word. Most people are reacting to life. Mm-hmm. And so you're observing, and maybe it's good and maybe it isn't, but you're responding to it, and that makes you want to try to control the circumstances so that you can have a better field to respond to. It's why you want your mates to behave, or your children to behave, or your government to behave. Be nice so that I can just observe you and feel good. That's really what most people want. It's a very conditional love,
right.
but it never works because there's too many moving parts and you can't control them. And what you're coming around to understand is, I'm going to align with who I am, and then wherever I look, it will feel all right. That's seeing the world through the eyes of Source. Because when you're in the vortex, here's the scenario. So here's some rascal misbehaving, but the whole time you're observing it, you're asking for improvement. So you're creating a much better vibrational world for yourself that includes that relationship. But when you look at the rascal that helped you to expand into this better world, often you don't take the expansion, and then you want to blame them for their bad behavior.
Correct.
Where we would want to say, it's not their bad behavior that is the culprit here. It's your inability to focus in the direction of who you really are, which is only because you haven't practiced it. This vibration is more vivid in your experience than this one.
Right.
But you can do something about that through practice.
And it's what I find very interesting, and I know that I'm the one that's doing the work, but I have to say that watching your videos and reading your books has opened up another window or door, if you will. And I mean, I think my ancestors would be very proud of how I handle situations and my attitude and the way I view things.
Oh,
and
better
look at
than
things.
your ancestors. You know, they're all dead.
Well,
better than your ancestors.
Oh God.
Better than your ancestors are the non-physical versions of them that have expanded into this new place, that are standing right there with the most expanded version of you, celebrating your arrival every time you come. That's what elation is. Yes. Where do you think elation comes from? That feeling of elation that you feel is the celebration we all feel when you catch up with who you have caused us all to be.
Right. Yes.
That was big.
That was very big. Okay. One thing. Because I'm not going to go into an explanation because you just said it. Oh, shucks.
Well, we distracted you, but you were on a good path there. So just relax and it will come back. Meanwhile.
Okay.
You're outside the vortex, doesn't matter how. Somebody says, you should do a better job of controlling yourself.
Okay,
Here's some cards that Abraham wrote. They're really good. So you say, all right, I'm going to get my life squared away here. I am the creator of my own life experience.
Right.
Whatever I desire, I can acquire. I'm becoming more aware of my feelings about money.
Right. Okay.
I can always tell a different financial abundance. Who writes this stuff? Who writes this stuff? This is just annoying.